It's Monday, and you know what that means. The Jersey First Television Network proudly brings to you the latest edition of Real Talk. And certainly, I am the generational talent in Garden State Media and your leader for trustworthy opinion journalism. That's right, folks. It's me, Fernando Uribe. Happy Monday. Happy Memorial Day. And I hope you're taking this opportunity to not just, of course, I get it. It's been kind of really crappy weather over the weekend, maybe not hitting the beach or wherever. But do me a favor, take a moment, and if you know families affected by the loss of servicemen and women, make sure you comfort them. And let's remember what really is important about Memorial Day and the sacrifices to all the brave men and women throughout the centuries as we approach 250 years here as a republic here in the United States, folks, to honor all our servicemen and women for the ultimate sacrifice of keeping us free and safe and, quite frankly, living in the best country anywhere on this planet. And I want to thank you all for tuning in from wherever and however you may be doing so on this, the 25th of May, as we're wrapping up the month of May, folks. Good traffic, and more on that later, of course. But as always, I always like to remind you to take 5 seconds to like, comment, and share today's episode. And, of course, to make sure you follow us on our social media. Like us on Facebook, of course, follow us on Instagram, and follow me on my new handle on X. I mean, it's been 2 weeks, and I've been trying to, talk with tech support, and I've not been able to retrieve my original account, which is really frustrating. But in any event, create a new page, as you can see there, at Uribe Media. Make sure you follow me on X, as episodes of Real Talk and all of my media content will be there, courtesy of Fernando Uribe Media. And, of course, make sure you subscribe to us on YouTube, all our great content that we bring you here on Jersey First TV every single week. And, of course, when you get your podcast on Spotify or SoundCloud, download Jersey First, make it a favorite on the channel, and you'll be updated with all our great content each and every week here as we continue to be the leader in fearless independent media here in the great state of New Jersey. Folks, I can't say it enough again what a privilege it is to be part of Jersey First TV, always educating and advocating for our residents here in the great state of New Jersey. Brand new episodes of Real Talk premiere every Monday. Of course, check your local listings. And, of course, brand new episodes of Bridging the Gap also are broadcasting every week on the Jersey First Television Network. Folks, you want to stick around for final thoughts? I got a lot to say because, as you know, ladies and gentlemen, I'm the only one really, well, that might not be true. You'll know more about that in a minute. That calls out the bad actors in New Jersey, whether it's in academia, whether it's in establishment media or lack thereof, whether it's government employees, elected officials, these insufferable activists and advocates, you name it, folks. I don't discriminate against anyone. And I think you're being a bad actor. I'm going to call you out. But when I think of bad actors in Hudson County, folks, what comes to mind? I think about this retard, Joe Brooks, the councilman in Ward B in Jersey City. I'm going to tell you why. He likes to virtue signal when it suits him. But here's a cause coming up that, quite frankly, should really get his attention because it's one of his residents in Ward B. And that's a parent who was apparently arrested at last week's Board of Education meeting, which, let's be honest, folks, no parent should be subjected to that sort of harassment. The mayor has spoken up about it, but why not Councilman Brooks? Where's he, by the way? I mean, more on that later. And again, does it surprise us, folks? When this is your first real job, you may not be good at it. Well, we're seeing that with Joe Brooks. More on that later during final thoughts. And speak about, kind of suspect people in Hudson County. I mean, folks, let's be honest. Let's talk about Irene Barnaby, a local realtor and realtor extraordinaire. I'll give it to her. And certainly, folks, she's nice to look at. But let me tell you, when she opens her mouth, she is the epitome of the typical toxic liberal white woman in Hudson County, especially in Jersey City. And I'll tell you more about that later. And quite frankly, why her appointment to the planning board should be sounding alarm bells for everybody. Like, isn't that a conflict of interest? Well, more on that later during final thoughts. And also, folks, I have a special comment during the broadcast this past weekend. I was privileged to be at Rockland Community College in Rockland County in southern state of New York to see the President of the United States, obviously receiving press credentials by the White House press corps. Yeah, folks, I do that. I get those things. Not everybody else does, but I do. Good to be in attendance to see the president advocating for Representative Mike Lawler, who's done a great job in his congressional district bringing money back. And also, of course, what we've seen with tax breaks on tax and tips and overtime. It's really helped the residents in New York's 17th congressional district. Why aren't more people talking about that? More on that during a special comment. But folks, here on the program, I love talking politics at all times. I love having the exclusive guests. And, I like to brag about having great traffic, having opinions at all times of day. But folks, I got to tell you, there's always competition here in this spectrum. And I got to tell you, a guy who's got great traffic, great opinions, and a great following. Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, we all know him as the Chronicler-in-Chief. He's a fellow member of Cowboys Nation, also Laker Nation. I know even though I got a Knicks jersey behind me, we'll talk a little Knicks later in the broadcast. Folks, he's my good friend. The Chronicler-in-Chief, Bruce Alston, joins us right now on Real Talk. Bruce, welcome back, bro.
What's going on, Fernando? How you been? Long time, man. Long time.
Long time. And by the way, happy belated birthday to you this past week, right?
Yes.
You just missed the cutoff because I'm May 17th. I'm a Taurus, but you're a Gemini, so
yeah.
Happy belated to you, brother. We're getting up there, man. But we're like bottles of fine wine. We're getting better with age.
Oh, I hope so.
I would say so. But good to talk to you, man. Here again, a lot to sort of sift through. And Bruce, for someone that's watching the show for the first time and has never heard of you, and I would find that to be ridiculous. But for the sake of argument, what was your epiphany some time ago in creating the Hudson County Chronicles? Because it really is, sort of a social media exclusive platform on Facebook. Of course, you have X and you also have Instagram, but predominantly your exceptional traffic emanates from Facebook. And, some people, some Gen Zers and millennials might say, oh, Facebook, that's for boomers. That's not true. Most people got Facebook, so that's just the reality. But take us back to time, and what was that epiphany for you when it came to designing the Hudson County Chronicles, and why are you still so committed to it?
You know what? I'll tell you what happened. As someone that ran for political office, right? I ran in 2011 and 2015. I just felt that I didn't want to be in the space of running for office all the time, right? I just felt there was a need for a voice that can bridge some of the history of Hudson County, right? And Jersey City politics, right? That can actually just tell it like it is. I was able to form incredible contacts throughout the years, right? So I said, wait, what's a way I can pivot, right, into a space? So I came up, at first it was called the Alston Chronicles, and I started just giving my opinions on different things that were going on in the community, in the county, the backroom deals, things I was hearing. And then it just, over time, I just started getting more and more involved. I was encouraged by people like yourself, Augie Torres, Earl Morgan, even some elected officials like, hey, you need to do something with this. You need to pivot to it. So it's just been an amazing journey, right? And over the last 2 years, it just seems like with the closing of the Jersey Journal, right?
Yeah.
That I've developed that kind of niche where the Earl Morgans and Augie Torres used to have their weekly columns, right?
Yeah.
That I've just developed into that, right? And it seems like people are consuming the content a lot more. I think that I'm delivering it in a lot, in a more macro fashion, right? And I think that I've developed a lane, and I'm very appreciative to people early on that told me, hey, stay with it, keep doing it. And to be honest with you, I was at that point where I said, I thought about, I was going to close it down. Honestly, I thought that, I said a good time might've been going out is like, I popped up during the Phillip years, and I was like, hey, you know what? I'm getting a little bit older. I'm not one that's consumed about the political circle anymore, the cocktail hour type things, like, going to events and all that. I'm not really involved with that anymore. But then I got encouraged by a few people, hey, don't shut that down. Don't shut that down. So here we are, 2026, right? And I said, you know what? I'm going to take it on a month-by-month basis, right?
Sure.
And, so far it's working very well. It's really evolved in more than social media into even like cultural news and stuff like that. So I'm appreciative.
No, absolutely. And again, one of the things I've always respected about you, Bruce, and listen, we've talked for years, right? I mean, obviously we have a great rapport as journalists. Obviously, we're fellow members of Cowboys Nation, more on that later, right? But really at the end of the day, I think I remember these conversations at the end of really like last fall when we were getting almost across the finish line to the mayor's race, ultimately the most polarizing mayoral race in the history, at least in my adult life in Jersey City. I can't speak for before, but I can just tell you that it was, it was just dramatic, right? We had so many candidates running for mayor. We had, the ballot for council seats looked like a scroll out of like Game of Thrones, right? And I remember a lot of people, even you yourself, were like sort of intimating to me and others, like, hey, maybe once a new mayor is elected, maybe at the end of 2025, maybe it's time to, as you said, to shut this down and move on to greener pastures, do something else. But you've proven to be an invaluable resource for the community. I'm not just saying it because we're friends, but I mean, I can call balls and strikes fairly on this show, as you know. And you've been doing that for many, many years. I mean, listen, you've been a gentleman. You've published my op-eds. You've gotten a lot of shit for that sometimes. You've gotten some bullshit.
See, the thing is, Fernando, right? Like, I'm one that firmly believes in like, you do what you do. You do conservative, right? And I just respect as far as you can disagree with it or not, right? But why? There's an audience for that. There's people that want to read that. So unless it's vile and disrespectful, there's no reason not to print it. And that's the way I look at it.
No, and I appreciate that. And again, what's interesting is, listen, I brag about my traffic all the time as a podcaster. You certainly have the right to brag. You had a tremendous 2025, I think, with how many millions of views? It was crazy. I'm looking at this
5 million views. And it's the crazy thing is,
and
right now I'm sitting with over 6 million.
Yeah. And listen, people rely on you, not just like publishing again. And let's be clear, because I think that, and we'll get into the media landscape in Hudson County, New Jersey in a minute. But, you brought up the Jersey Journal before. And, in recent years, I was shitting on it a lot because of the leadership, right? Its editor runs that lingo, which I thought was atrocious. But to your point before, years before Augie Torres and others, I mean, there was a reason to read the Jersey Journal. And listen, I took no solace or joy per se in the closing of the Jersey Journal. I mean, those are people affected, like printers and journalists there and their families. I mean, listen, it didn't bring me any joy. I didn't mind seeing Ron Zeliger be unemployed because I think he brought the paper down in recent years. But I mean, it was an institution in Hudson County for over 100 years. So to drive by Gerald Square, which looks like Gotham City now, with the big buildings, and see that building empty, like, it breaks my heart because it reminds us that traditional print media that we grew up with, again, I'm probably dating myself here, the Hudson Dispatch, the Hudson Reporter, the Jersey Journal. Like, listen, I look forward to on the Saturday mornings, I'd see the Hudson Reporter delivered to my doorstep on my porch on my house. And I'd be like, let me have my coffee. Let me read the editorials. Let me read the coverage. And I still like reading print news. Dude, I'm a sports guy. I'll read the sports first.
Exactly. Same thing here. I love the feel of a newspaper. I'm not even
absolutely. And you've proven to be a great resource in the sense that you're different than, for example, what the Hudson County View does, right? Like that Hudson County View, I would argue, is still the best news site in Hudson County for everyday breaking news.
Absolutely.
Columns. They publish editorials and everything. Listen, again, no disrespect to HudPost. They do what they do. They do it well. Jersey Times. Again, they've found their niche within Jersey City, reporting on news. Now, again, we have the TAPs that, again, Steve Lennox, the owner, and Al Sullivan, really the lead journalist there, covers Hoboken, Jersey City, Bayonne. Again, great news sites. And I'm not here to argue about traffic and who got better numbers. I'm not about that. I think it's great to have all of this available to people. But I think what you and I do is very different. Again, as a podcaster, I'm still a journalist, despite what some people might think or argue. I'm a journalist. You're a journalist too, because you're reporting on what's going on in Jersey City specifically. Now, again, you branched out into Hudson throughout the rest of Hudson County. You talked recently about the Newark mayor's race. You talked about other races in Belleville with the election of a new mayor there. So you're branching out in terms of your coverage and your analysis. But let's get into Jersey City here. And I'm looking at my notes here. Let's get started with some good things here. And not to sound salty, but I really would like someone to explain to me if the mayor and his cabinet or his staff had some sort of, influencer dinner of some kind last week at City Hall. Well, again, Is there some sort of prerequisite for traffic, or do you have to be liked? Now, again, maybe Laura, I know Laura Bustamante doesn't like me, and I don't care. But I mean, the mayor and I on election night at White Eagle Hall, we had a nice conversation. He's going to come on the show at some point after this whole budget drama and crisis, right? And, I've interviewed him before, so I don't have a problem. But when you're inviting influencers and you're not inviting the Hudson County Chronicles or Real Talk with Fernando Uribe Media and others, I don't know. It's like, it seems like you're not getting on our good side, bro.
Yeah, well, you know what? I don't even look at it as like a good side, right? Like, I'll be totally transparent, right? I think it's in the best interest for all of us that live in Jersey City and the better part of Hudson County for James Solomon to be very successful. There's not a bone in me that wants to see him not successful, right? But what I think one of the reasons why I think I wasn't invited was the fact that I've been highly critical. I believe that's their assessment of their administration. And I think that when you look at it, right, my track record shows I've been very consistent as far as, I'm going to ask you, Fernando, who was more critical than the Fulop administration when it first began?
Oh, no. Listen, absolutely.
It was me.
Yeah, you were.
But see, I think it is right now is when my natural place in this is not to play cheerleader, right? You have a mayor that has a 9-0 basically city council that's aligned with him. He's got a press secretary from New York City. He's formed this team of I guess they call themselves the Avengers.
Oh,
right?
Okay. Real quick, I'll let you finish. But when I saw that online, and again, I'm a Marvel fan, so obviously now with Avengers Doomsday coming up this year, we're going to see the introduction of like different realities. On what version of Earth, when I see Laura Bustamante and I see Katie Brennan and I see a couple other people there, like, are you kidding me? They're not even the Thunderbolts, much less the Avengers. Okay, so stop it. Whoever, like, I know who put that story out.
We know who put it out too, but anyway, like I'm at the point of where, hey, you know what? My natural take is not to be, if anybody remembers the old Boston Celtics, is not to be on the sidelines like ML Carr sitting on the bench, just twirling a towel.
Yeah.
No, I'm going to look at everything that you stated on your campaign agenda, right? And it's going to be some hard truths. Yeah. But people will know that if they look at my track record, I've been very consistent on every new administration. Yeah. Jimmy Davis's administration, when he first started, I was very critical.
Yeah.
So I don't look at it as having any type of personal animosity, right? I did find it amusing when I got an email from the city spokesman a few weeks ago, and hey, I'd like to introduce myself. We need to talk, and claimed that he had never spoken to the urban. He had no idea that the Hudson County Chronicles even existed, right? But I had him commenting on a post of mine like 2 days after the election. I take stuff like that disingenuous, and not to toot my own horn, no, but if you know what's going on, specifically, let's say in the African American community, right? You should know Bruce Alston.
Oh, absolutely.
You know what I mean? Like you should know, and it's not that many people that have the complexion of my skin, right? That are reporting on politics in Jersey City and Hudson County. So that's what I find the disrespect is that I've been doing this a long time. I haven't really, I let you call me a journalist. Everybody knows I kind of shy away from that. Sure. I call myself an opinionated blogger, right? But I do believe my numbers say I have influence.
Well,
just based on the numbers.
well, Bruce, I mean, again, also too, I mean, the reason I call you a journalist is because you're not just putting out opinion pieces. I mean, you're actually doing research and work. You're talking to sources. You're cultivating, the rapport with them, and you're printing essentially news. It's not just listen. You know me. This is a podcast. This is straight opinion journalism, but I do talk about the news, and I feel that I talk about it in a fair manner. Now, again, people might say, "Oh, he's conservative," but the news is the news, and if this is what's going on in Jersey City or in Bayonne or in Hoboken, like again, case in point, and I'll sort of bring this. I'm not to toot my own horn to sort of quote what you were just saying, but the op-ed I just submitted recently to you, the Jersey Times, talking about what's going to be happening during this budget season when it's about 5 weeks to go. And we all know that in New Jersey, this gets dragged out into the last minute. Yep. And for everybody at home that maybe isn't familiar with the process, under the state constitution, the legislature, by no later than 11:59 p.m. on June 30th, has to ratify a budget and submit it for the governor's signature. Now, if that doesn't happen by 12:01 a.m. on July 1st, we've seen it with Governor John Corzine in 2006. We saw it Governor Christie in 2017. The state will experience a shutdown. Maybe sometimes it's a few days. Maybe it's just 24 hours. Whatever the case may be, it's happened. Now, we came closer in the 8 years of Phil Murphy where it was right down to the wire, maybe the 29th, the day of the 30th, right? So now, obviously, we're seeing something with the budget. We know what Mayor Solomon has reported on in terms of the deficit in Jersey City. And to sort of piggyback on something you just said, I told James on election night, like, I want you to succeed. We may disagree on a lot of policy prescriptions, and that's fine, but I want you to succeed. I go to Jersey City. I visit Jersey City regularly. I frequent nightlife there. I contribute to the economy of Jersey City. I want to see it succeed. So I've said it on this program numerous times. I want to see Solomon succeed. Now,
the thing is, I think James is I think, and no disrespect, I think Mayor Solomon, because I want to give him his due respect. I think Mayor Solomon he's very intelligent. Yep. Right. Mm-hmm. I think that I just don't know, and time will tell if he's assembled the best team, if he has the best. I know. Stu Thomas is he's one of the top political consultants.
Yeah, around. Good guy. I mean, listen. You got to give my problems with him. I've had my problems with him personality-wise in the past, but we put that aside. We've shaken hands. It's fine.
You got to give Stu his credit. I just don't know if the right individuals are giving him the right advice. I don't know if it's from, but some of it on inexperience, right? Inexperience.
Sure.
I just think that there's going to be they're going through some growing pains right now. And the crazy thing about this, though, is some of this stuff that's being sent to me is leaked from within inside the Solomon administration.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't know, but I do think that they got some growing pains. There's some growth that needs to be done.
No, absolutely. And let's get into that. I mentioned op-ed I submitted recently alluding to what Jersey is ultimately going to be getting in this state budget. Now, of course, the mayor came out early on and said that the city, quite frankly, could benefit from a $150 million bailout from the state. That doesn't look very likely, Bruce. And I'll tell you why. Again, I want to see James succeed. I want to see Jersey City succeed and thrive and flourish. But again, the op-ed I submitted a few weeks ago talked about, back in 2010, 2011, 2012, under then Governor Chris Christie, Speaker Sheila Oliver, and Senate President Steve Sweeney. I mean, they gave Camden, and I'm just looking at numbers here, back in 2010, they gave Camden over $60 million in 2010. Yep.
That was an all-time high.
They gave Camden $70 million in 2011 and then $70.1 in 2012. Now, again, as I said during the op-ed, because I like to be funny, you couldn't pay me enough to drive into Camden for anything. I mean, the city is still a mess, but Jersey City has to thrive. But I just don't think in this budget climate where the governor's saying one thing, the governor's like, well, I'm introducing a bigger budget than last time than what Governor Murphy signed on to, but I still want to cut things. And we're seeing the discussion of cuts. The Stay New Jersey program under Assembly Speaker Coughlin, which benefits seniors, other things, school districts maybe not getting the money that they were getting before, a whole bunch of other departments, which I think should be cut in New Jersey. Because it's all of these, it's all of these like woke left-wing nonprofits that don't need our money, Bruce. But at the end of the day, Jersey City, if I had to gamble right now, I would say if they get no more than 30, 40 million, That's a lot. And even with power brokers like State Senators Brian Stack and Raj Mukherjee, which I'm sure are going to be banging the drums in Trenton, making sure that Jersey City can get something out of the state budget. Don't think for a second that Governor Sherrill is just going to be like, oh, yeah, well, because they're Democrats, I'm going to help them. That's not true. There are plenty of districts in New Jersey that are Democrat leaning and very heavy blue. They're going to feel the pinch as well. I just think that, listen, you said James is very smart. He is. He's an exceptionally brilliant man, and he's become a very brilliant politician. He's got to be talking to some insiders in Trenton, getting a realistic number, because let's be honest, the budget's got to be passed at some point this summer, and $150 million, that's not a realistic number.
Well, I don't think it's realistic, but I also think that it's the whole game of you shoot high, you ask for the sky, and then I think more than likely Jersey City will probably get a third of that, probably about 50 million, 40 or 50 million. And I think that's the range we're going to get. But I also think that if I'm the governor, and this is where I don't understand this administration's rationale, why do you go? Why in a budget crisis that you claim is the biggest bailout on the biggest financial crisis in the city's history, would you be adding salaries, creating new positions without knowing if you're getting this funding or not? That just doesn't make sense to me.
Well, I'll say this, and I think that, again, I'm not an economist, even though I play one on TV here sometimes. I would venture to guess that whatever fees or the inevitable tax hike that's coming, maybe it's, I don't want to call it paying Peter to pay Paul, whatever, that maybe they're anticipating an uptick in revenue, whether it's in a tax hike or anything else, and maybe that's their rationale. Again, I can't pinpoint it, but to your point before about the budget deficit, let's be honest, man. The mayor has not been shy on any media platform in taking shots at his predecessor, and ultimately just saying straight out, like, Steve Fulop, a shithole and a budget cluster, you know what? And I got to fix it. What's fair about that statement, Bruce, and what's unfair about that statement?
I'll tell you what it is. What's fair is this, okay? At the end of the day, right? If the house has been burning from 2017 to 2018, Mayor Solomon likes to say as a councilman, he did not vote for those budgets, right? That's his record. My thing is this. I do believe he still had a duty to be yelling fire, 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 fire. I didn't hear that. I didn't hear that fire being stated on the campaign trail either. I heard McGreevy talking about it.
I was just about to say that. McGreevy warned us. And
McGreevy warned us.
Yeah.
Now, what I believe is, right, those would have been tough questions for Councilman Solomon to answer, because most people, regardless of him and the Mayor Phillips, they linked them together. Voters are going to be like, hey, you are a part of it, right? So now I say, what is the real number? Because we're getting this $250 million. That's the number Mayor Solomon's given us. Who's giving us the actual number? Where is the audited proof that that's the real number? And that's the politics side of it. The other side I like to see is this, though, is where I tell people that don't get fooled by politics. Like, we have Miami in New York, people saying, oh, he balanced a $12 billion budget deficit within like 5 months. That's impossible. That's just, don't believe that. He's based that on projections, projections of revenue and things like that. I think this administration has an infancy about them that they don't realize. There's only so much you can blame your predecessor on, right? Because when you really think about it, if that number is true, what responsibility do you lay as people who are incumbents on that council? I mean, I hate to say it, but if McGreevey as a candidate, I can say, as McGreevey as a candidate, right? If he was able to find this number, why wasn't a city council member able to find this number? That's a fair point.
No, absolutely. And again, and you're right about that, because it kind of lends itself to the theory of, well, who was McGreevey talking to in the previous administration that had access to those numbers? Now, again, after the election, during the transition, obviously, I'm assuming for weeks, Mayor Solomon sat down and started looking at the books. We started seeing the press conference he had in the council chambers about what the budget deficit was going to be. But let me ask you this. Let's do a sort of not devil's advocate argument, but again, if you remember during the last, I would say, term, yes, Councilman Solomon voted against the budget. So did Councilman Frank Gilmore. Now, again, Bruce, to be fair, that's only 2 votes out of 9. If the other 7 are voting for it and they're rubber stamping it, again, I'm not trying to shit on the previous, council people, but at the end of the day, I think that's a little bit of a leeway that I think Solomon supporters hung their hat on and said, well, listen, I get it. You're right. Maybe he bears some responsibility, but at the end of the day, out of 9 people, if it's him and, Frank Gilmore are the only dissenting voices and the budget's still getting passed, I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, they're kind of powerless.
Well,
right?
let me say this, though.
Okay.
There's nowhere in time that I see. There's one thing to vote against something, right?
Sure.
And there's another thing to continuously advocate against it, right?
Okay.
Now, I've seen Michael Young, right, speak on an issue even after the vote was passed, several weeks later, still telling people, hey, we're heading this way, we're heading this way, we're heading this way, right? And continuously advocate for that. Like, in fairness to Frank Gilmore and James Solomon as council members, yes, they voted against it, right? But I don't see anywhere where they were saying this doomsday scenario was coming on.
No, absolutely.
And as councilman, I think that's your biggest job.
Absolutely. And again, listen, he's been very smart in recent weeks. He has met with state senators Brian Stack and Raj Mukherjee. I mean, obviously, we all know the power broker that Brian Stack is in Trenton. He's still going to try to do everything he can to help out the mayor. Obviously, there's an insistence on unity within the Democrat Party in Hudson County. You have progressives on one side. You sort of like the establishment, sort of centrist Democrats on the other side. And they have to find a way to coexist in Hudson County. Obviously, I think the establishment Dems don't want progressives kind of growing too much. You know what I'm saying? I mean,
that's another contradiction. I mean,
okay.
I call it every progressive is a progressive until they join the Democratic Party, and now it's unity. It's basically, okay, since I got in, now I can work with these people, right? That's BS. Okay. I mean, I look back to Andy Kim. Andy Kim talked about this reforming and stopping all this within the Democratic Party. He's fell after he got that nomination. He's fallen right into that fold.
No. Listen, fair point.
When this administration was talking about, as Team Solomon, reform and doing away with boss politics and establishment politics. If I'm thinking, right, they're talking about the Raj Mukherjees, the Brian Stacks, the Craig Guy. They're talking about these individuals and like very covertly without saying their names. Like, if you're saying this, you're talking about them, fairly or not. Now, since you're in office, you can work with these people.
No, listen.
Sounds familiar.
No, yeah, fair point. And
now, listen, it sounds familiar. It sounds a lot like Steve Fulop in 2011, 2012,
Yeah.
Then he got elected. He didn't try to. He folded right into the party also. So is there some truth of Fulop 2.0?
Well, listen, that's a fair point, and I think that during this budget season, I think the biggest amount of pressure or the spotlight is going to be on State Senator McCarthy more than Stack, because again, Jersey City is in his district, in the 32nd legislative district. And listen, I know that Raj McCarthy recently had an event at Liberty House where you had the governor there supporting him. You had Senate President Scutari there, Craig Coughlin, very much almost, and also James Solomon. So if there's going to be some sort of, now again, we'll see what the budget number is and what comes back from Trenton. But if it's not the number that people are expecting, right? I mean, I'm hearing whispers of, well, if Raj doesn't really help get this done, he could be in dangerous waters of a primary challenge next year by either Katie Brennan or Ravi Bala. But I think that Solomon and the governor and Senate President Scutari and Speaker Coughlin, I think kind of maybe nip that in the bud for now, because they've all kind of rallied around McCarthy and support of him. Now, again, doesn't mean he won't get scrutinized if he doesn't help bring back dollars to Jersey City during the budget crisis. Is that fair?
I think it's fair, but I also think I watched part of Hudson County View, John Heiness's interview when he spoke to Mayor Solomon.
Yeah.
And one thing I found peculiar was John asked him, hey, what about this belief about your stance on open primaries, right? And the mayor's response was, yeah, we'll probably do that in 2028. 2028? 2027 is when these Senate seats and Assembly seats are opened up. So that let me know right then and there. The deal's been cut, my brother. Raj will be the HCDO candidate.
Yep.
For state senate in the 32nd district. That's no doubt about that.
Oh, yeah.
That deal has been set. And if I'm as skillful as I know Raj McCarthy is, right? You know what? I'm going to get up. You get a slice of it this year and a slice of it next year, of helping with that budget.
Sure.
But that's just the politics in it. Like, there's no way. Like, that tells you right then and there is, though. If it's about reform, well, we can delay it. We can delay it. We'll delay it another year, So everyone's progressive. They want reform until they join the organization and they get their little seat at the table, which they get their seat at the table, and then they form this thing, unity. And I laugh because unity was the same words that the Fulop administration used back in 14 and 15. It's like everyone who comes in as a reformer uses that. And I see the similarities. Well,
and again, also, too, I think that everyone's playing nice right now, as you just alluded to, and that almost becomes inevitable. And we'll see, obviously, because, listen, and I've been very critical of them, and rightfully so, of Assembly people, Brennan and Bala. I mean, they're as ambitious as anybody. I mean, the ink isn't even dry yet on their swearing-in document. And, one of them is already thinking about 27, and we'll see.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. But for now, it seems like there's peace within the Democrat Party in Hudson County. Obviously, we saw the re-election of Craig Guy as the ACDO chairman. We'll see next year for the county executive seat because, again, there's a tax hike coming in Hudson County, which I know many mayors are not happy about at the county. More on that in a little bit. But we'll see what happens in terms of party unity. But let's get another story. I know you covered here as well and talked about, and I'm going to be talking about a little bit later in the program. But the Jersey City Board of Education has also been under considerable scrutiny with the budget they just announced, over $1 billion. Yes, folks at home, to sort of do a Dr. Evil, $1 billion. I mean, that is a crazy number for the Board of Ed. And just this past week at a recent Board of Ed meeting, you see a parent there advocate. And mind you, by the way, Jersey City Board of Ed meetings, the public speaking portions were cut down. They used to be 5 minutes. Now they're 2 minutes. And, whether that's by design or not, we can debate that. But I'm going to play this clip here. Here's a mom, and it broke my heart seeing this because I work in education. I know how hard CST personnel have to work to help so many kids with special needs in a school district, right? And not every district is funded accordingly. You know, great educators and administrators have to make do with what they have, you know. But in Jersey City, I mean, you could hear the despair in this mom's voice, and almost how it seems like the Jersey Board of Ed members couldn't give a single flying, you know what. But I'm going to play this clip here and see what you think of it.
I'm a 12-year resident and parent living in Ward B. I'm here with Parents United for Special Education Reform. Tonight, I want to talk about decorum and respect. This board claims to have decorum and respect. You told us how long we can or cannot speak, how we are and are not permitted to speak to you. You shorten public comment in the name of order. For what? Why? And then you threaten to allocate only 30 seconds. Why is Dijon Morris leaving? That's disrespectful, sir. You brought armed police officers and said on mic, arrest her as they moved to physically remove from this room a mother of a child with disabilities who is exercising her right to speak. How much is that costing and for what? We're not threatening you. We're exercising our free speech and holding you accountable. If you conflate that with being threatened, that's a you problem, not a security problem. Also, on mic, you said, están locos. Sí, estamos locos. Locos para proteger los derechos de todos los niños con discapacidad de esta ciudad. You seem to forget that children are watching you as an example. They see how you behave. Respect is a two-way street, especially since you work for us. Respect requires that we as constituents are treated as partners in the education of our children and not giving lip service about that. Not as nuisances to be managed, timed, and escorted out. Respect requires that when a parent stands at this microphone and tells you their child's education rights are being violated, you do not look at your phone, you do not whisper to the trustee next to you, you do not go to the bathroom or fall asleep or roll your eyes, you listen, because that is what respect looks like. Did you not learn that in school? You cannot demand respect from this community while withholding it from those you are charged with serving. That is not order, that is a power dynamic. A dynamic that has led to failures we are here to name every month. Respect is not a favor this board grants to the public, it is the baseline of the job you were elected.
I mean, Bruce, listen, let's be fair. Two things. Number one, I'm happy to see the mayor speak out about this because subsequently that mom was arrested later on in the evening for supposedly trespassing. It's a public meeting. I don't understand. How can you be arrested for trespassing when you were asked to, well, not asked, you registered to speak and you're a concerned parent? And number two, you know, for all the virtue signaling this retard does, that woman is a Ward B resident. Where's Joel Brooks in all of this? Like, where, you know, he loves to virtue signal about a lot of shit, but you would think that one of his constituents getting arrested at a Board of Ed meeting would merit his attention. I mean, this is a bad look, but you know, what are your thoughts and what are you hearing about what happened last week at the Board of Ed?
I'm going to tell you, and excuse me for being long-winded, right?
No, it's fine.
That video kind of really, it hurts me.
Yeah.
I was in a similar position with Rolando Rivera when he was serving on the council. And I thought at that time it was one of the most disrespectful acts by a city councilman, right? And in fairness, on that council, you had people that were disgusted at the comments Rolando made. Joyce Waterman, Danny Rivera, almost all the council didn't like the comments that he made, right? And he basically used that platform because he was concerned about what I said about former Councilman Chico Rangel and former Councilman Gadsden, that I had mentioned them in something I said. I see that woman and I say, City Council, that Board of Ed, I'm gonna bleep it out. It's a famous line in a movie. You know you beat up, right?
Yeah.
You know you really beat up, right?
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
And it's a menace to society, right?
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
You have now allowed this woman, and I don't think she was trying to do it, to become the face of a movement, of
Yeah.
an educational movement, right? And what I have liked to have saw, just looking at that, as one of those board members to have gotten up in protest and basically went to try to de-escalate the situation. All right.
Yeah.
Now,
Bruce, I'll let you finish. But what's interesting about that is that, again, now the Hudson County View reported that they did submit an Oprah request for the arrest report and the body cam footage. But the bottom line is this: if you're being arrested for defiant trespass, you were there at a public meeting. You signed up to speak during a public meeting. And I think it's downright disgraceful. Number one, you're right. One board member should have at least got up and say, wait a minute, this is ridiculous. This should not be happening. Let this woman speak. This woman should not be arrested for how's she trespassing? And number two, real quick, and I'll let you finish. Number two is it's so symptomatic of what's going on in a lot of boards of ed throughout New Jersey. Because I'm not going to crack a Stephen A. Smith line where I know thousands of teachers. That's not bullshit. Okay, I literally know thousands of teachers throughout all 21 counties in New Jersey in over 500 school districts. And I talk to them all the time. They watch this show. They tell me regularly, Fernando, my God, in this board of ed, that board of ed, this is what's happening. Trustees are now letting parents talk. And especially in an area like Jersey City and Hudson County, Union City, nearby West New York, whatever, what we've learned, and we have yet to really know the damages of the pandemic when it came to learning loss. Our kids in Hudson County and our schools, again, are still experiencing difficulties from that. And to see Board of Ed trustees with the arrogance of submitting a $1.2 billion budget and then to be dismissive of parents, you're right. This could ignite a fire under parents that want to make an example out of the trustees.
Yeah, I think that's obvious. I think that's happening. I think that there's a benign collaboration that's forming between these parents and Board of Ed employees that are not happy with things that are going on in regards to their relationships with the administration. That's causing an uprising. And that uprising is something everyone should be aware of. I just think that I saw that woman, Miss Picote, to call her that woman, she had a sense of easiness. When the cops came in and arrested her and walked her out, I watched how she walked out. And that was a woman who was basically saying, I'm standing my ground. I'm doing this for my belief. The most disheartening thing about that clip is there was children there.
Yeah.
Now, it's
a bad look, man. It's a bad look any way you slice it.
It's a bad look. And I wrote something very earlier in the year when this new Board of Ed started. And I talked about decorum, how they needed to act, the leadership they needed to display. And a couple of board members called me out on it privately. Hey, I know how to act. We know how to conduct ourselves. And every month, there's something going on with this board.
Yeah.
And people lose confidence in that. Like, do we really want this going on with $1 billion budget? And I just think that it's too many consistent antics that keep going on, and the public is tired.
No, listen, I'm with you. It's definitely a story to keep an eye out for in the coming weeks, because we'll see A, what becomes of this arrest, and B, we all know I think the mayor's going to get involved here. I think
he has no choice but to get involved.
I think the mayor sees this as a very bad optic, and it might not be the last time that a parent speaks up at a Board of Ed meeting. And if this is going to be the norm now, we're going to start arresting parents for speaking out. Like, this is bullshit. Like,
you have a deputy mayor of education now, you know? And I just think that when parents start, people can say what they want to say. Yes, the mayor doesn't run the Jersey City schools, right? But when parents do not understand that. They still hold the mayor responsible for that.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Listen, it's definitely a story to keep an eye out for. Let me ask you this. I mean, a great column you had this week. And folks, again, if you're just joining us here, do me a favor. Make sure you subscribe to Hudson County Chronicles on Facebook. They're a great local news site, great opinion pieces there. And of course, the Chronicler-in-Chief, their publisher, Bruce Alston, joins us here today on Real Talk.
And listen, and I post opposing views.
Yeah,
so
you
do. Want to send me an op-ed, it's different from mine. I have no problem. I'm not one that's like, hey, I can be wrong, but I'm just giving you my opinionated. If you have something that differs, I welcome you to send it in.
No, and folks, I can tell you, I've been the beneficiary of that. Bruce has been very generous in publishing my op-eds, and he'll deal with the grief that comes with it. But ultimately, it's a really fair and I know that's sort of an overused term these days, but it's a really fair and balanced local resource for Jersey residents and Hudson County residents too. Speaking of that, this past week, had a great column titled "If JC Impact is the Promise, Then Where is the Data?" You wrote, over the last 2 weeks alone, Jersey City has seen the kind of public safety incidents that make residents ask a question. What is happening? Where is it happening? And what is the city doing about it? On May 18th, 2 Jersey City men, ages 47 and 53, were shot and killed inside a residence near 109-111 Old Bergen Road. No arrests have been announced. As of the initial reports, and Mayor Solomon called it an isolated incident and said the city was expanding undercover officers in hotspots. On May 6th, 2 23-year-old women were shot on the 70 block of Rutgers Avenue. Both survived, but the shooting was enough to send both to the hospital. Then there was the armed carjacking near Journal Square. Police said 5 men approached a BMW parked near Sip Avenue, demanded the driver and the passenger get out, and took the vehicle. This is the type of incident families hear about through school notices, texts, and word of mouth before they ever see a full public safety picture from City Hall. And this is where the fairness comes in. The prior administration used to release quarterly shooting numbers, not every category, not every district, not weekly, not monthly, mostly shootings, including fatal and non-fatal, and they got drilled for it. Critics said it was not transparent enough, not detailed enough, and not neighborhood specific enough. Fine, but Team Solomon did not run on doing the same thing. This administration promised more. They announced JC Impact, a Comstat-style accountability system that would track response times, crime mapping, clearance rates, forensic processing times, patrol coverage, domestic violence handling, crash data, and Vision Zero compliance. Again, folks, you can read the rest of the column. Really, really well written, as is everything with the Hudson County Chronicles. Bruce, tell me more about this and why it caught your eye.
I mean, because we got a press conference for everything. And we're not getting any new data. And I just think that I want to be politically correct. So far, it seems like this administration is very good at rolling out stuff or rebranding it like it's theirs, like there's something different, and that there is nothing different. I mean, you go online and look, it's the same thing the last administration gave us. And I can call out several incidents besides just this JC Impact, the crime stats. I mean, this administration promised us a new trash haul. We were getting away from the old trash company. That didn't happen. We re-signed with Regional for more money for 5 years. This administration claims that it started a new 911 system. It didn't. This contract was signed and was already in motion under the last administration. This administration just held a ribbon cutting on Bergen Avenue for affordable housing that was done under the last administration. This administration claims it's bringing out 700 new summer jobs. That's BS. That started under the last administration. It was called Jersey City Youth Works, I believe, at some point or whatever, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So, I mean, now you have things like, which was under the police department. It was called Rocking with Seniors, senior events during the summer. Now they've rebranded as Senior Fair, right? So I'm like looking at things, I'm like, wait a minute. There's nothing innovative or new, right? Now we have a recreation department, right, that has brought in a highly qualified man, Pete Vincent. Impressible credentials. And even my coverage on that, advocating for Tommy Best, wasn't a knock against him. It was a knock that I think many people in the community, even outside the community, thought Tommy Best was going to get that position, right? Then we've watched how this administration has now built a separate department, basically under the Director of Education, Dr. Dia Bryant. And the only thing it looks like she's doing is she's taking over the youth engagement of, getting readiness for jobs and stuff. And that's a great thing, right? But I'm going to ask you, what does this administration really have done, right, that isn't something that's very similar or tweaked from the last administration? See, and I don't mean to go off topic,
Sure.
but it's all tied together on why I brought that up, is that where is it at? I need to see, we promised 1,000 new apartments, right? Are those apartments supposed to be created under this administration and started them? Or were they including what the last administration already had in the pipeline?
No, listen, I think they're all those are all fair questions, and I think that residents
and those are the things that I'm looking at. Like, and my allergies are bothering me today, so if anybody knows, but let me tell you the other thing is, there was no bigger advocates than the Civilian Complaint Review Board than James Solomon, Denise Ridley, Frank Gilmore. They wanted that. That was it. They wanted that, right? Even put up symbolic legislation. They pressed for it. They act like the last administration could do whatever they wanted to. Have you heard anybody make that a mandate of this administration? Because if he wanted one, they could start one.
No, listen, that's right. And again, just to focus on that specifically, because I've talked about it on this show and other shows as well. Listen, again, I'm all for these review boards, but I've talked about it from a perspective of, like, again, I don't want to be like that bougie, snobby academic. But what I'm concerned about, Bruce, is when we see civilian complaint review boards like this, and ultimately you want to give subpoena power, that's really like the the golden fruit there. I mean, the subpoena power is what makes the board. My concern is, again, having worked in criminal justice for 10 years before going into academia and journalism, like I prefer to have former police administrators, prosecutors, defense attorneys. My concern, though, at the local level is you start getting some of these activists on these
Absolutely.
boards. I don't want anything to do with these activists not because I hate progressives or the left, or as I call them, the woke warriors. I want professionals on a board that understand the criminal justice system. I don't want these 24/7 advocates that don't have a job that are going to get on a board.
You're going to get
power. I don't want that.
See, what's going to happen is, right, and I wrote about that a few years ago, right?
Yeah, that's right.
That is not the model that can happen, right? Because what's going to happen is now you're going to get people that already have community biases against the police, right? You need to have CCCRB boards, right? If you're going to have them, you got to have some type of legal background or that can understand the law, or it's got to be retired judges, it's got to be defense attorneys.
Yes.
And I don't even know if it's a good thing to make their identities public.
True. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's right.
Because I know my community, right? I know people in my community, right? There is no way they're serving on a CCRB board, right? And keeping everything confidential.
No, it's yep, you're right. No,
that's leaking out.
No, you're absolutely right. And again, I think that's definitely something to keep an eye out for with this administration. Again, I think maybe it merits writing about it again to sort of raise some red flags, because I think it's necessary.
See, the out will be the same thing the last administration said when it had to be approved on the state level. And that administration was called out for taking that stance, right?
Yeah.
No administration is going to really take that on. I think we both know that that's something that will never get passed from the state level, not New Jersey right now.
Yeah, and even with as divided as the legislature can be with traditional Democrats and progressives, I think at the end of the day, whether it's Senate Presidents Scutari and Coughlin, I mean, they're going to have a lot of compromising to do with, in Trenton about getting that passed. So you're right. I mean, never mind on the state level, for it to trickle down to the local level is going to be, it could be bogged down in litigation. It could be bogged down in the usual bureaucracy. You're absolutely right. I think it's definitely something to keep an eye out for, but you're realistic about its prognosis and, quite frankly, its vibrancy. Let me ask you this, Bruce. Another good column this week you had, actually yesterday, you titled it "Jersey City Made Illegal Double Parking Legal to Accommodate Bike Lanes," which, as you know, I am as adamant against bike lanes and all these bike warriors and all this bullshit from these local activists that, quite frankly, I think, don't get me started on them, but you're right. Now they want cameras watching us? ? You're right. Only in Hague City can government help create the mess, then come back later with a camera and ticket book like they had nothing to do with it. Good point there. This is a city that has redesigned streets, squeezed traffic, added bike lanes, took away curb space, which is infuriating, and somehow made once illegal double parking legal. Not officially legal, but Jersey City legal. The kind of legal where everybody knows it's wrong, but everybody does it because the city made daily life impossible without doing it. Hazard lights became the new parking permit. Run into the store? ? Hazards. Pick up food ? Hazards. Drop somebody off? Hazards. Delivery truck blocking half the street? Hazards. And after years of letting that become the culture, now Jersey City wants a camera-assisted parking enforcement program. So let me get this straight. You help create the conditions, watch the behavior become normal, then roll out cameras to punish the same residents who adapted to the chaos. Nobody is saying people should block crosswalks. Nobody is saying bike lanes should be used as a parking lot. Nobody wants emergency vehicles trapped behind some car with blinkers on. But be honest, Jersey City did not become a double parking city by accident. It happened while development exploded, which it did. Parking disappeared, which it did. Streets got tighter, which it did. And common sense got pushed to the side in the name of planning. Now the residents who were told to adjust may be told to pay. That's the problem, because every time the city creates a policy, working people seem to feel it first, which is true. The person grabbing food after work, the parent dropping off a child, the delivery driver trying to make a few dollars, the small business customer with nowhere to park. Beautifully written there. Tell us more about this story, man.
I mean, just growing up here, like, I see the way the cars are parked now. Like, you got a ticket for that. A cop would say, "Hey, what happened if an emergency vehicle comes through here?" And my stance on the block on the bike lanes is legendary. There's too many of them unused, not being utilized. Hey, I got a good idea. Install cameras to see how much of these bike lanes really being used. Do we need all these bike lanes? I mean, I think it's ridiculous. I think in Journal Square, having those bike lanes is ridiculous. I mean, we need to really go back to the tape.
Yeah, that's fair. No, listen, I think that's fair too. And I think that, you look at the way development has exploded in recent years. Obviously, I mean, I think everyone's going to assess blame wherever they want, and that's a debate for another day. But you're right. I mean, we've seen residents go to council meetings, object to these bike lanes. And listen, I'm someone who, I get that a lot of these bike activist organizations have amassed a lot of influence and some political power. They're getting into these
started a political action committee to support candidates, raise money.
Yeah, and they're getting into the ears of elected officials in Jersey City. They're making noise on social media and at council meetings. But at the end of the day, again, and listen, up here where I live in Union City, the mayor, who's also my state senator, has done a good job in curtailing development to some extent, right? But at the same time, he's understood the necessity of bike lanes on major avenues like Palisade Avenue, parts of Bergen Line Avenue. As you all know, folks, Bergen Line Avenue goes all the way into North Bergen on 90th Street and goes all the way down into Guttenberg, West New York, Union City, and ultimately ends right before you enter the Jersey City Heights. Now, the bike lanes do end somewhere around Midtown in Union City, not all the way downtown. But the bottom line is that these bike activists have, again, we don't live in Paramus, folks. We don't live in Parsippany.
Exactly.
We live in Hudson County. And listen, I'm fortunate enough to have a driveway in front of my house, but that's not everybody. And I have to drive everywhere because, listen, where we live, Bruce, and where I live in northern Hudson County, I live a block from the light rail. So I can take the light rail whenever I want, and I have. And I've enjoyed doing that, right? Even though New Jersey Transit's a mess, and that's a topic for another. We could do 3 hours on that, another episode. But but when you go a little south into Hoboken, into Jersey City, even into Bayonne, developers have really looked at every square inch of land possible, and they're developing. And at the same time, they're A, pricing lifelong residents out, and B, they're making streets narrower. I mean, I drove through downtown last week with John Highness. Obviously, we're out and about as we, know. And I mean, when I'm driving through downtown, right by Pedestrian Plaza, those blocks before, yeah, it's great to have bike lanes, but you're still seeing development at the old Barcade, for example, and nearby. It's like navigating through the streets is treacherous. I'm not even being hyperbolic.
But listen, here's the worst part. They are don't rent your driveway out because they're finding you for an illegal parking lot.
Yeah.
So it's like, if you have a long driveway, you can rent to your neighbors. You don't report it to the city, you're getting fined. I mean, I know these are not all the problems created by this administration.
Sure, I get it.
But once you take that oath, it becomes your responsibility to solve it. I think what they're doing on Franklin Street in the Heights, all those people came out, and I give Rolando Lavaro credit because he's the only one that said no. The people in the community do not want it. But who is that accommodating? I mean, it's just too many of them.
No, absolutely, absolutely. Let's move on here to some election season topics, because obviously it is election season. It doesn't really feel like it, especially after the Bayonne mayoral race, which was it wasn't sexy at all, I thought.
No.
Very lackluster. We saw, obviously, other municipal races that obviously didn't have opposition. Again, congrats to my mayor, Brian Stack, Mayor Turner and Weehawken, certainly Sharon Ashdodrosky in Bayonne. And what was supposed to be a hotly contested race was a bit of a deflating,
Yeah.
buzzkill. It was almost like, oh, you're meeting that hot girl on Tinder or Hinge, and then for some reason you meet her in person. It's like, oh, this kind of deflating. That's what Bayonne felt like. It really did. Let's be honest. It really felt a little deflating. But obviously, we got primary day coming up on June 2nd. And what was supposed to be a really sexy race, Bruce, has not become that in the 8th Congressional District. And obviously, the incumbent representative, Rob Menendez, who, by the way, again, and let me be very fair about Rob. We're friends. We've gone out to dinner. We've gone out for drinks. I mean, I know Rob. Our families know each other. Obviously, being Cuban, knowing his dad, our grandmothers knew I mean, there's a link there with Rob, and I always have a great respect for Rob. I don't agree with a lot of the things he does, some of these antics lately in front of Delaney Hall, for example, but there's no denying that he goes to Washington, rolls up his sleeves, he brings back federal dollars to the district, which again is a pretty interesting district where it stretches all the way up north into like North Bergen, Union City, West New York by me, into Hoboken, into Jersey City, parts of Elizabeth, parts of Newark. So it's a really weird district the way it's designed. But there's no denying that Rob hasn't done the work. He has. And let's be honest, early on in the year, when U.S. Senator Andy Kim, a former colleague of his in the House, and other, Mayor Ross Baraka in Newark nearby endorsed Rob. Certainly a lot of prominent Democrats in Hudson County within the Democrat Party. Chairman Craig Guy, State Senator Brian Stack, and others, Weehawken Mayor Richard Turner, West New York Mayor Albio Series. These are all big power players in the Democrat Party. It almost seemed like maybe Musab didn't see the writing on the wall after last year's mayor's race, where, listen, he got a bigger vote total than a lot of people anticipated. He had a little bit of momentum, but I think that's where you have to kind of surround yourself with not yes people, but smarter people, to your point, where, hey, maybe if this many endorsements is coming Rob's way, why don't you sit this cycle out? Maybe why don't you run for a county commissioner seat or just sit it out? But this ambition of just like, hey, I ran for mayor, it didn't work out. Let me challenge a representative in a congressional district where, listen, thank the Lord, Rob isn't woke like AOC across the river or LaMonica MacGyver or some of these other clowns we see in the House. Rob is, a Democrat. He's
take it easy on LaMonica. Take it easy on LaMonica.
Well, I mean, let's be honest. I mean, the antics and the theatrics at Delaney Hall don't suit me well. But Rob is pretty much a center-left Democrat. I don't think he's as crazy progressive as, let's say, again, an AOC or the Squad or an Olivia Mejia, the new representative in the 11th Congressional District. But Rob's done the work. He works for this district. I don't know what compelled Musab to want to run other than just being ambitious. Is that a fair synopsis, bro?
You know what? I do think it's fair. I just think that Musab did something that a lot of elected officials do. I mean, candidates do. They overestimate or overvalue themselves. And I don't think he read the room. I think he really thought that he was going to be able to kind of sustain the momentum that he had with the youth and everything. And I think he didn't realize, like, this district is different. Like, he was not going to catch that fire like that. I think he thought that he would get the backing of Solomon and O'Day and different people. And there's no need to make a change in that district right now. And here's the other thing. What I would say to Musab is, like, it's sometimes, and I think I wrote about it, I think he's very dangerously becoming like Musab caught that lightning, and if he would have stayed out this cycle, right, people would have been calling for him instead of him calling for them.
And the problem is, and I'll let you finish, he's now developing this smell of the perpetual campaigner. And I'm sorry, that smell, once you get that stink on you, it's hard to kick.
Yeah, and I just think that I think Musab has a lot of talent, has a lot to offer.
No, sure.
I really do. I really do.
Yeah,
I'm not going to take that away from him, right? But I just think that he's also got to realize there's people in elected office right now. If Rob somehow was to lose favor and lose that seat, right, that they want that seat themselves. So they're not going to do anything to elevate you, Musab.
No, you're right. No, you're absolutely right. And I think that had he set out this cycle, and again, right after the runoff, you started seeing the tea leaves. You saw that Solomon was going to sit this out and not really take any favorites here. We know that the relationship between Solomon and Rob Menendez has not been great over the years for different reasons. Yeah. You know, James has taken some jabs at his dad. I get that. And listen, like any good son, you know, being Cuban, listen, we're petty people, bro. We're petty. Exactly. We hold grudges. So I get where forgetting that is going to take some time. I know that it's amicable right now between Solomon and Rob Menendez, but again, that could change at any time. And listen, there were upcoming commissioner seats, right? With no county line, maybe people running, it could have been easier for Musa. But I agree with you. I think had he sat out this cycle and said, hey, listen, let me be visible in the community. I'll go to council meetings. But what are you doing? You're leading student protests at not just nearby Union City High School by me, but in Jersey City. And again, you're getting almost castigated now to where you're getting banned from school properties because you're trying to convince students. And don't get me started on this virtue signaling about ICE and getting students and teachers to walk out and virtue signal about ICE. Let me just say this, because I think I've talked about this on this show repeatedly. You know, whether it's Musab or other activists that go out there and are very visible during these bullshit No Kings rallies. See, Bruce, this is what bothers me about the No Kings nonsense. Where was this energy? Okay. I'm not vaccinated and I'm not going to be. Okay. I've survived trips to Vegas. I've survived trips to Miami. I've spent some evenings at the Lincoln Tunnel Motel on Tunnelly Avenue. I've spent some time at some hotels down the shore. I'm not saying I'm Wolverine, but I think my immunity is pretty good. Having said that, where was all this energy from 2021 to 2022 and 2023 when firefighters, Bruce, police officers, EMT workers, servicemen and women in our armed forces were getting discharged because they chose not to get vaccinated? That wasn't tyrannical, right? Yeah. But if you needed a vaccine card to go eat, that's okay. That's not tyrannical, Bruce. That's not fascistic. That's not the erosion of democracy. But these people will go out there and not a peep, right? And mind you, when King Charles, an actual king from England, steps inside the halls of Congress, you have members of Congress applauding the king. Like, it drove me crazy seeing that. So where's all this energy about tyranny and about, the scamdemic and what happened and all of these tyrannical rules in New Jersey and blue states specifically, but not a peep during that. But now you're crying about no kings? Bruce, explain to me where people like Musab and others are going to lead kids and teachers into these protests and walks about no kings and about the erosion. There's nothing being eroded about democracy. We're not living in a fascist state. But it's interesting about the energy people like this bring when just a couple of years ago, when people like me were maybe threatened with losing their jobs, had to get tested regularly. I couldn't go eat with whatever girl I was dating at the time in a restaurant because maybe I needed a vaccine card. It's that sort of progressive woke bullshit that I think turns people off. And someone like Musab and others kind of lead the way with that, bro. Am I wrong?
I think, I don't think, and I read someone said, and I'll never pay for it for the Jersey City Times. Someone sent me some screenshots of editorial they did on Musab as far as is he trying to say he's anti-Semitic? And I want to say to Musab is you have to be very careful with your messaging and with your alliances, because there's some things you just can't shake. I don't believe that he doesn't realize that this district is not as far left as he may think. I mean, he's got to season himself. If I'm Musab, I'm like, after this is over, I'm probably taking my Harvard degree and going to make some serious money.
Yeah, that's right.
And take a break from politics. And then come back if you really want to serve. Now, here's the thing. I'm very scared for him that he doesn't become this type of Beto O'Rourke type of candidate, where Beto was in Congress, served a term or two, then he decided, I'm going to run for state senate. He did very well against Ted Cruz. Where's he now? He was supposed to be the next Obama, the next RFK. No one knows where this guy is now.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. No.
And that's what I'm afraid about Musab. I think Musab has a future.
No, he does. He does. Yeah, I agree.
But you're killing it now.
No, I agree. Speaking about obviously election season, and maybe not this one, but let's move on to next year because, I went to an event at Liberty House a few weeks ago, hosted by Assemblyman Jerry Walker. Certainly, his political capital is on the rise, Bruce. I mean, it's almost spiking like the Dow Jones right now. There was a pretty interesting group there, consisting of Hudson County Executive and Democrat Chairman Craig Guy, State Senator Brian Stack. You had Brendan Gill from Essex County, a very big power broker in Democrat Party politics in New Jersey. You also had the nearby mayor, Karen Doyle from Kearney, New Jersey. I mean, listen, going into next year's primary season because obviously all the legislative seats are up, both in the state Senate and state assembly. You look at people like State Senator Brian Stack, who's very, very safe in that seat. He's a worker, again, and I know people took exception with me taking jabs at Robbie Balla and Katie Brennan, but Brian Stack sees like 100 people a day. I mean, again, if Robbie Balla and Katie Brennan see 100 people their entire term, that's a lot. And Raj Mukherjee is out there in the community. Raj Mukherjee obviously is meeting with constituents. Mm-hmm. You're seeing that also with Jerry Walker. He's also meeting with constituents. That's a bad optic for someone like Angela McKnight. And personally, I like Angela. I've known her for over 10 years when she was running Angela Cares, for example, that great nonprofit. So I've known Angela for years. Great lady, maybe not, submitting or proposing more bills in Trenton that she should, who knows, compared to, say, State Senator Stack and Mukherjee collectively. But there's a lot of whispers, man, right now that if anyone's really in danger in 2027 going into the primary season, and also who's the Democrat Party in Hudson County going to be really, really pushing, it seems like it's going to be Jerry Walker looking to unseat Angela McKnight in next year's primary. Does Angela have any hope or prayer next year?
You know what? I'll say this. It's an old saying. The way you get in is the way you stay in. I mean, she's a product of Steve Fulop. She's probably known within the Democratic organization that she was aligned with Fulop. I mean, there's no denying that, right? Normally, a new mayor comes in, he picks his own, who he wants to run for the Senate, who he votes for the Assembly. That's the challenge Will Sampson has right now. Does Sharon Nadrowski keep him as an Assembly person? Angela seems to have a good relationship with Solomon, but everyone knows Jerry's coming for that seat. I mean, That's just the way it is. I mean, now, can she survive? I don't know.
I mean, listen, it's going to be hard because, again, without someone like Fulop in her corner, and yes, sure, listen, some progressives maybe in Jersey City, in the 31st legislative district, which again, after redistricting changed in recent years, right? Obviously, now it's the entire city of Bayonne, a lot of the south side of Jersey City. It has Kearney and Harrison, also East Newark. So it changed a lot from previous years of what LD 31 used to be. And Jerry Walker's presence remains very strong there, not just only with his nonprofit, but again,
Jerry's got. I mean, the numbers Jerry did in the assembly race shows it. I mean, he's got Joe Caldwell in his corner.
Yeah,
he's got the Brendan Gill connection.
Yep.
I mean, Jerry's going to raise a lot of money.
No, and also too, and the thing about Jerry is, again, there's this optic, and I say it all the time. He's meeting with constituents. He's not just out there virtue signaling, going live on Instagram for clicks like some other assembly people I know, Katie Bray and Robbie Bala. But he's out there meeting with people, just the same way with Stack and McCarthy, the same way with Larry Weinstein in LD 33. Like, they're meeting with constituents. There's an optic out there.
But in fairness to Angela, she's meeting with people.
No, she is.
She's always in the community and everything.
No, she is.
It's just that I don't think there's any love lost or any type of relationship where it's like that one feels they owe to any type of loyalty.
No, and listen,
I think many people say if Senator Cunningham was still active, right, that she would have wanted Jerry to get the seat. I just think that Angela's been around long enough to know she's going to face the toughest political challenge of her political career. Who knows? Angela might say, you know what? I'm done with this.
It's very possible. I mean, again, maybe doesn't want to deal with the primary, the money necessary to run. And we know Jerry can raise money. He has some power brokers in his corner that are going to help him raise money. As I mentioned, State Senator Stack, McCarthy, certainly Brendan Gill, Essex County Commissioner, Kearney Mayor, Doyle. I mean, this is going to be interesting going into next year. Bruce, before we wrap up here, a couple of things here, just some housekeeping things. Number one, obviously, I know you're going to keep an eye on with the Solomon administration. Certainly, it's past 100 days. I don't want to put you on the spot about grades because sometimes, I'm in the business of grading, as they say. But what would you give the Solomon administration right now since it's been 100 days? And listen, there's some things you want to find, you want to pick apart. And I'm the same way. I think we have to be intellectually honest. Again, I want Jane Solomon to succeed as
we're going.
But how would you grade this so far?
So we're going A plus A, B plus D.
Sure. All the way to F.
C plus D. I give him a B.
Okay. That's fair.
I give him a B.
Okay. I would agree with you. I'll probably go a little higher. I would say B plus only because I think that he's been adamant. And again, I'm concerned like you are about some of these hires where, listen, you want to bring on a business administrator, maybe hire him or her at the lower echelon of the salary. And then, like anything else, hey, I'll take care of you on the back end. Like, a year or two from now, you'll see a spike, but come in on the lower end like everything else. The salaries kind of concern me, but I'm with you on that. But I would just argue, I think that he's making a conscious effort about hiring really good people.
But here's the thing, in fairness to him, right? The last administration had ran through a couple of directors in different departments before they got it right. You got to give him the same grace, right? But I'm still going to report what I see or what I feel.
Sure.
Personal. I want James Solomon to be successful.
Same. Yep. Same here.
Like we have there's no personal animosity or whatever, right? So I'll give him a B. Okay. And not a low B. But I give him a B.
Listen, I think that there's room for improvement, of course, and we'll find out, obviously, in the weeks and months ahead, obviously, what transpires, and I know you'll be reporting on it. Bruce, real quick here, I always have you on. we got to talk a little Cowboy football here. I like the offseason. Great draft. I did like keeping Pickens with the franchise tender. And again, I know some people in Dallas sports. I know Matt Thornton, who hosts a show on 103.5, The Fan down there with Drew Pearson. I know Matt personally. We talk all the time on text.
Yeah.
It seemed like going into the draft day, Pickens and his agent were kind of, shopping around saying, hey, what's the market for me?
Yeah.
And right now, there wasn't a market for a long-term deal for him. So he was smart to sign the franchise tender. Obviously, I think we know he's going to try to play his ass off this year. He wants a new contract. He's going to try to get big numbers. I was ecstatic about the draft. This defense, if healthy, looks like it's got a bunch of studs, a safety out there. They really worked on the pass rush. They got a new defensive coordinator. I'm always concerned about Prescott, obviously now, especially since he broke off his engagement. Who knows how that's going to affect him personally. But that offense with CeeDee Lamb, with Pickens, obviously picking up a couple other guys, great tight ends. The offensive line got some work during the draft, so I'm happy about that. Everyone's in love with the Giants about John Harbaugh. And again, we're seeing some drama now in Giants land with Jackson Dart being at the President's event on Friday in Rockland County. Some Giant fans are already getting on. The Eagles are taking a step back. I think the Redskins are not a good team right now. I like our chances, but again, being a Cowboy fan, you're almost like you're almost waiting for the disappointment. But could this be the year maybe that the Cowboys make a little noise? What's that?
Defense.
Yeah.
Defense.
We'll see for sure.
You got to do it. And you know what? I didn't think trading Micah was a bad thing.
No, I told you this last August. I said they're going to get picks, and if you turn around and look at what they were able to get, they were able to get 7 picks out of that trade, and they bolstered their defense. They bolstered their secondary. And mind you, listen, nothing against Micah Parsons. I hope he recovers. I hope he goes on a productive career. But when you are asking for $55 million as a linebacker, and let's be fair, there's enough playoff games of a sample size where Micah hasn't been effective. It's hard to justify that contract. So
he's a pass rusher. Yeah.
And again, I was happy I said, listen, long term, these picks are going to turn around, I think, be good. And they were. You saw that. Mm-hmm. So we'll see what happens with the Cowboys. Obviously, we have training camp. We'll find out. They open against the Giants here. I'm excited about that game for sure. But let me ask you this, too, because I know we're both Laker fans, but we love basketball. You saw behind me, obviously, there. Bought that jersey during the 1999 Eastern Conference Finals.
Yes,
last time that the Knicks went to the finals. They're a game away from the finals. Okay, tonight could be the night, as they say, where they go to the NBA Finals. Bruce, I gotta say this, and we're sports fans. I think you can agree with this. I think we are of a certain age, you and I. We've seen the wars, as they say in New York sports.
Yeah,
I would make the argument if the Knicks go on to win the NBA Finals for the first time in 53 years. Again, I wasn't alive for this. My dad saw the Knicks win a championship. Mm-hmm. My dad saw the Jets, his beloved Jets, win a Super Bowl. I would make the case, and if Jalen Brunson gets this team across the finish line, it's hard to argue that in the history of New York sports, he's going to eclipse Manning, he's going to eclipse Jeter, he's going to eclipse Messier, he's going to eclipse Trache and those Islander teams from the 80s. You can make the case that Jalen Brunson is going to be up there with Joe Namath, with Willis Reed, Clyde Frazier. He's going to be in that Mount Rushmore of New York sports, because to get the Knicks, if they do this, it's hard to argue that Brunson hasn't eclipsed everybody else in New York sports except those 3 guys, and could be really that icon.
He's the king of New York if he wins it.
What's that?
He's the king or prince of New York.
I would argue, and
he'll never buy another meal in his life.
No, never. And let's be fair. When the Yankees are good, and they've been good in the 90s, whatever, when the Mets have had their brief success, when the Islanders had their success in the 80s, the Rangers won their first cup in 54 years, back in 1994, when the Giants are good. But there is no better vibe or feeling in New Jersey, in New York City, the boroughs, whatever. When the Knicks are good, and the Knicks are playing past Memorial Day, and it's June, it's hard to argue that there's no bigger buzz in the region. When the Knicks are good, it changes the landscape of this area. Is that fair?
I agree with that. I mean, we're both Laker fans, but
Yeah.
if you're not cheering for the Knicks now, you're crazy.
Yeah. And again, I think that, listen, and don't get it twisted, folks at home. Oklahoma or San Antonio are going to be a monumental and Herculean challenge for the Knicks in the NBA Finals because they're not going to have home court.
Nope.
B, these are really talented teams, and I don't want to be like, well, I'd rather play this team or that team. You got to play who you got to play. But right now, the way the Knicks are playing, you got 5 starters that can give you double digits in points every night. They're playing smothering defense. And I got to tell you, I was never a Mike Brown fan. I thought that back in 2007 and in 2009, when he was leading the Cavaliers to, really good records, came up short. Yes, he won a championship as an assistant coach in 2020. Coincidentally, Kenny Atkinson, the Cavs coach, and him were both assistants in 2022 when Golden State won a championship. So they have that championship pedigree, learning from Steve Kerr, being in the finals. But I got to tell you, Mike Brown also, I think, could eclipse himself into this upper echelon of we've seen, the Joe McCarthys, the Casey Stengels, the Joe Torres of the Yankees, the Billy Martins. We've seen the Bill Parcells and Tom Coughlin's with the Giants, right? We saw, Weeb Eubank with the Jets winning the Super Bowl. We've seen the Rangers. We've seen the Yankees. We've seen, the Islanders and the Devils locally. But if the Knicks get across the finish line, you're right. Jalen Brunson, he might run for mayor. I think down in 29. I mean, that's how popular he's going to be. I think he's going to solidify himself as an all-time icon in New York sports. And this is a guy whose dad was on that 99 Eastern Conference Championship team who you're never going to convince me, a healthy Ewing, a healthy Larry Johnson, they beat that Spurs team. You're never going to convince me otherwise. I mean, that was a great
story. But I'll tell you, I think the one thing about like Mike Brown, hey, wasn't a sexy pick, wasn't a sexy hire. But I think that if you look at this Knicks team, it reminds me of the UConn run.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
It's like they're just humming right now.
Yeah.
I mean, it reminds me of like this defense
is smothering.
Yeah,
I mean, they're playing.
Towns become a passer. I mean, I hope they bring it home.
Listen, if they bring it home, I think, number one, I've gone to a lot of parades in my adult life. Last one was the Yankees in 2009. If the Knicks win the finals, I'm going to tell you right now, that parade down Broadway, down the Canyon of Heroes going to see, that could be catastrophic security. I mean, you're going to talk about millions of people are going to flood New York City for that parade.
Let me tell you something.
Yeah.
If they win, right, New York becomes the hotbed for the whole summer.
Oh, absolutely.
You got World Cup.
Yep.
You got the 250th anniversary of the nation. You got Jay-Z coming to home. I mean,
it's going to be, you're absolutely right. It's a hotbed. Bruce, again, I want to thank you for your time here today, man. You're a wealth of information. Again, you might catch some bullshit for talking to the outspoken conservative here in Hudson County and in New Jersey media, independent media. But again, I think what you've been doing for years now has been invaluable for Jersey City and Hudson County and in New Jersey. Because I mean, you cover other races, obviously, during the selection cycle. You've been great, man.
Thanks.
I know I speak for a lot of people that are happy you didn't shut it down in December of 2025. You're a great resource for residents. The Hudson County Chronicles, the numbers, the traffic speak for themselves. I'm grateful for our rapport, but I'm grateful more for your belief in my brand of journalism, that it's work. It's hard to get guests, as they say. You got to put the numbers up. It's a metric-oriented business.
Yep.
You know that better than anybody. I appreciate your faith in my brand of journalism, and I'm really grateful for our rapport, our friendship, and obviously, to much more success for the Chronicles. I'll give you the last word here today on Real Talk.
Listen, just keep. First of all, Fernando, thank you for having me. Keep doing what you're doing, right? Speak your truth, right? And I'll tell everybody out there, listen, we all just have to realize my reporting, I don't think is never personal, right? It's my beliefs, I don't ever discourage anyone to say, hey, Bruce is right, Bruce is wrong. I mean, it's just my opinion, and I hope, and I'm just happy that people have given me the opportunity to share it consistently. All right, Fernando, peace and love.
Love you, man.
Talk to you
Again,
soon.
folks, check out the Hudson County Chronicles on Facebook. He is the chronicler-in-chief, the publisher of the Hudson County Chronicles, Bruce Alston, our guest today on Real Talk. Bro, happy Memorial Day, and we'll talk again soon here on Jersey First TV. Take care. Folks, good stuff there with Bruce Alston, the chronicler-in-chief, the publisher of the Hudson County Chronicles. Good stuff there today, really breaking down what's going on in Jersey City, what's going on in Hudson County. Folks, read the Hudson County Chronicles every single day. He's publishing great columns. He's publishing great editorials from all sides of the political aisle, not just mine, but everybody's. And he's fair. He's balanced. And I know that term has been used and maybe overused in recent decades, right, in the way we look at news. But folks, the Hudson County Chronicles has been an invaluable resource for residents, and he tells it like it is. And I respect that. And again, I can't say enough how grateful I am to him, because he features my media brand, which I know is not everyone's cup of tea or brand of vodka. But again, just like him, my numbers speak for themselves, and people tune into me. People tune into him for a reason. They want just good, honest, fearless, independent journalism. That's what you get with the Hudson County Chronicles. And again, their publisher and the chronicler-in-chief, Bruce Alston. Folks, again, happy Memorial Day to everybody here. We appreciate you tuning in. And again, I can't say enough about what a great conversation it's been with Bruce Alston here today. As I said before, like, comment, and share tonight's episode here on Real Talk. It really helps the show grow, and it shows your support for fearless, independent media here on Jersey First TV. Folks, you know what time it is. It's time for Final Thoughts. Folks, and I talk about it all the time here in New Jersey, there is no shortage of bad actors in New Jersey politics, but also, too, within higher education. I talk about it all the time, right? Whether it's beta males like Joan Medidas from Woke State University over there in Montclair, whether it's like useless, government and higher education employees like Maria Rodriguez and others, right? Awful, just god-awful elected officials like Katie Brennan and Ravi Bala, who would rather virtue signal than actually meet with constituents, right? Or other useless elected officials like Phil Cohen and Joe Quintero, right? Who have voted on making Hoboken more expensive in recent years, and somehow they want to act surprised. Folks, these two jerk-offs, I mean, they do such a disservice to Hoboken, I don't even know where to start. Or other insufferable activists, the usual cat ladies and the Karens, toxic liberal white women, which again, folks, I would argue is the most toxic demographic in all of our political landscape. And we all know who they are, right? Whether it's Hetty Rosenstein, whether it's Caleb Burrell, whether it's Lauren Albrecht, whether, there's brown one too, like Nettie Morsi, Amy Torres. I mean, and as establishment media is dying in New Jersey, right? I mean, it's no one's fault but their own. We're still seeing other journalists, or if you want to call them that, attempt to try to report on the news, and quite frankly, they're just propagandists masquerading as journalists. Whether it's Max Pizarro from Insider NJ, useless potheads like Matt Friedman from Political New Jersey, Chucky, Charles Style from NorthJersey.com via the Bergen Record, Tom Moran, which I don't know, he hasn't reported in some months, but I'm sure he's out and about being a nuisance to somebody, right? And I've talked about it before. Obviously, no shortage of other useless women in New Jersey activism and advocacy, right? Patricia Campos Medina, other women like Bob Medina, useless women like Jay Lassiter, right, in our landscape. But folks, what really bothers me sometimes is the useless elected official. And we've talked about it on this show. As you can see, the collage there behind me, folks, the collage gets updated regularly because I feel the need to add people to it. As you can see there is a new addition to the collage, and it reminds me about Joel Brooks. Okay? This useless Democratic socialist who had the audacity to call me out during campaign season, right? Because God forbid that we offer an alternative opinion. God forbid that people that live in that bubble hear differing views, right? Well, you know what's interesting? And we talked about it today with Bruce Alston, again, the publisher of the Chronicles. We saw a mom get arrested last week at the Jersey Board of Education meeting for simply advocating for parents, for simply calling out members of the Board of Education, the trustees, who are disrespecting parents. Now, kudos to Mayor James Solomon for calling out the bad behavior that happened at the Board of Education meeting. But this woman, again, as reported by the Hudson County View, again, shout out to John Hines, okay? The great work that he does with Hudson County View, of course, and the great work that his journalists do, Dan Israel, Dan Aloha, right? But here's some footage from last week's board meeting where you would think, as much as this jerk off behind me likes to virtue signal at all times, right? Where's he been this past week? And I get it, maybe him and Jake Efros are too busy blowing each other to really care about parents. They like virtue signaling when it suits them during the campaign trail. But now that, both him and Jake have real jobs for the first time in their adult lives, right? You would think that he would be out there advocating for this mom and other parents that feel marginalized right now in Jersey City. But not a peep from this idiot, right? Mayor Solomon, good for you, brother, for speaking up about this ridiculous arrest. How can you charge a mom with defiant trespass when it's a public meeting and she signed up to speak during the public portion? Make that make sense. And again, shout out to the Hudson County View for submitting an Oprah request, and we'll find out what happened in the arrest report and in the body cam footage. We'll see what happens. But let's take you back to last week and hear the despair in this mom, and it breaks my heart. And folks, again, I don't like to ever encourage virtue signaling, right, or sob stories, but this isn't a sob story. This is a mom who's concerned about her kid, and her being marginalized by the trustees or the security there is an outright disgrace. I'm outspoken about it. I'm raising awareness about it. You think this jerk off is? Of course not. He's too busy, I don't know, reading, who knows? Maybe he's ironing every red shirt he has in the house, and he's cultivating, new recruits within the Democratic Socialists of America, whether it's in the New Jersey chapter or Hudson County, right? And those other useless progressives and woke fools that I talk about on this show. But you would think that this guy would be up and about, because this woman who spoke up and got arrested is a Ward B resident. Where's not Jake Efros? Where's Joe Brooks? Where's the outrage? Where's his press conference? Where's his presser with his social media people, like that 500-pound gorilla, whatever, that follows him around, right? And documents everything. I mean, where's the outrage, Joe? Where's that energy about you being outraged and bringing it? Where's that energy? It's bullshit, because we've come to know that Joel Brooks represents bullshit, and so do all of his supporters. But let's listen to this mom once again from last week's meeting at the Jersey City Board of Education.
I'm a 12-year resident and parent living in Ward B. I'm here with Parents United for Special Education Reform. Tonight, I want to talk about decorum and respect. This board claims to have decorum and respect. You told us how long we can or cannot speak, how we are and are not permitted to speak to you. You shorten public comment in the name of order. For what? Why? And then you threaten to allocate only 30 seconds. Why is Dijon Morris leaving? That's disrespectful, sir. You brought armed police officers and said on mic, arrest her, as they moved to physically remove from this room a mother of a child with disabilities who is exercising her right to speak. How much is that costing, and for what? We're not threatening you. We're exercising our free speech and holding you accountable. If you conflate that with being threatened, that's a you problem, not a security problem. Also, on mic, you said, están locos. Sí, estamos locos, locos para proteger los derechos de todos los niños con discapacidad de esta ciudad. You seem to forget that children are watching you as an example. They see how you behave. Respect is a two-way street, especially since you work for us. Respect requires that we as constituents are treated as partners in the education of our children and not giving lip service about that. Not as nuisances to be managed, timed, and escorted out. Respect requires that when a parent stands at this microphone and tells you their child's education rights are being violated, you do not look at your phone, you do not whisper to the trustee next to you, you do not go to the bathroom or fall asleep or roll your eyes, you listen, because that is what respect looks like. Did you not learn that in school? You cannot demand respect from this community while withholding it from those you are charged with serving. That is not order, that is a power dynamic, a dynamic that has led to failures we are here to name every month. Respect is not a favor this board grants to the public, it is the baseline of the job you were elected.
Folks, again, good stuff there by that mom speaking up. And subsequently, the mom getting arrested. Again, we're going to find out what happens in the next few days when that arrest report becomes public and that body cam footage becomes public. And good for the mayor. Good for the mayor speaking up and saying he's going to get to the bottom of this. But you know who should be saying that more? This idiot who loves to pontificate, who loves the sound of his own voice, who loves to speak up for the people. It's bullshit. That's what Joel Brooks represents, folks. Just rename him Joel Bullshit, not Joel Brooks. Okay? Where's he been this week? Okay? What, is he way down the shore? It's been shitty weather all weekend, raining. What's he doing? Sitting at home, cuddling with his wife and, reading the Communist Manifesto, and they're all like giggling about it? Like, what are you doing, Joel? And for a guy that during the entire campaign trail didn't waste a single moment to virtue signal, to bloviate, to talk bullshit on people like me, like credentialed, award-winning journalists, because God forbid, maybe he'd get challenged on something, like other Democratic socialists who live in this sort of bubble, who don't like to sort of hear anything outside their echo chamber. Folks, this is the best way to describe Joel Brooks. And in a time when parents are feeling the pinch where the Jersey Board of Ed submits a $1.2 billion budget, parents want some accountability. Parents want to know, what is the Board of Ed going to do, especially for parents that have children with special needs and disabilities. It breaks my heart to see that mom speaking. But you know what should break your heart more? That the mom getting arrested is a Ward B resident, and that's the ward of this retard. You would think he would have some good common sense to put out a statement, maybe not have a presser, but at least put out a statement on social media. Maybe cut a quick promo video. No, that's too much to ask for lazy people like Joel Brooks, who, I get it, this is his first real job in adulthood. I get it. Like Jake Efros, when these two are busy blowing each other, I get it. This is your first real job in the real world. So maybe it's a learning curve. Nah, the hell with the learning curve. You got to get to work. And getting to work is standing up for residents like the woman we just heard from, and other parents that I'm sure are going to be marginalized in upcoming meetings. Now, I understand that some of these meetings can go hours, and sometimes maybe cutting the public portion from 5 minutes to 2 minutes maybe seems a bit unfair. I get all that. But you should be speaking up for parents, Joel. Shame on you. You're a parent, aren't you? All you do is talk about, oh my God, and I care about my community because I'm a dad and I'm a husband. Well, be about it. Don't just bullshit about it. Be about it. But again, folks, that's a lot to ask for when it comes to dealing with the usual, woke fools and social justice clowns in Jersey City. And when we think about that, we think about Joel Brooks and how useless he's become. And quite frankly, folks, parents in Ward B and parents in Jersey City deserve better from our elected officials, where they should be more outraged. Good for Mayor James Solomon raising some noise. Joel Brooks, you can learn a thing or two from your running mate, the mayor of Jersey City. You need to kind of, get on the ball here, bro. Stop eating shit. Stop reading the Communist Manifesto. Stop cultivating conversation with these bullshit DSA morons and get to work. That's what they pay you for, right? Unless I got something wrong. Speaking about useless, let's move on to another person who's useless in Jersey City. And, yep, it certainly starts with Joel Brooks. Let's move on to another, and that's Irene Barnaby. Now, folks, don't get it twisted. This is a nice-looking MILF, and trust me, I don't think any guy would ever want to kick her out of bed. But the problem is the minute she opens her mouth is what makes her insufferable. So kudos to her being a realtor and a successful one for some time. But I've had the displeasure of having to interact with Irene Barnaby on multiple occasions. And whenever there's liquor involved, you can rest assured, folks, she becomes every bit that annoying Karen and toxic liberal white woman that we've all come to rely on. Now, when she's sober, she's insufferable. When she's drunk, which is quite often at any political event, yes, she becomes worse. And I can tell you from firsthand experience, whether it be at Surf City, whether it be at White Eagle Hall or other political events, yeah, folks, if there's alcohol around and Irene Barnaby's around, ooh, be careful. The minute she starts opening her mouth and gets going, it becomes insufferable. But you know what's interesting about women like Irene Barnaby? Again, and kudos to her. You marry a rich guy, and I get it. He nutsing you, gives you a kid, cool. And you're pregnant again, awesome. That's great. You live, and you're wealthy. I get all that. Good for you. I live comfortably. I'm not complaining. Folks, but what makes Irene Barnaby and a lot of the typical Karens and the stroller moms and all the cat ladies in Jersey City, downtown Jersey specifically, or Hudson County or New Jersey, is sort of living in this echo chamber. I remember submitting op-eds on multiple occasions. And of course, you have clowns like Irene Barnaby commenting about how racist Fernando Uribe is, right? Or how xenophobic he is, or how he, looks at illegals in today's political climate. Sure, I get it. I mean, she has an illegal working in her house, right? Being a nanny. I get it. You're concerned. Maybe you have to really pay a real wage to someone instead of hiring an illegal to take care of your kid. All right. So I get it. You're concerned about, hey, if there's a massive sweep of illegals, maybe you won't have a nanny that you get at a discount rate for what you pay hourly. Maybe you'd have to actually pay a real hourly wage to a nanny. I get it. You're concerned, like a lot of typical white liberals that talk a good talk, but the bullshit walks, as they say. But my grievance with her isn't, again, folks, you run into her at a bar, cool, nice to look at, whatever. But let me tell you, it's this type of woman you want to, you don't mind taking home, but you want to get her out of the house as soon as possible, because the minute she opens her mouth, oofa. I mean, that's a turnoff like anything else. But my grievance with Irene and how insufferable she isn't about her political beliefs. I mean, she's progressive, she's woke, and I get it. She's useless that way. She's good at selling real estate, if nothing else. But what concerns me, and I think it should concern every resident in Jersey City, right, is that she's a realtor. Okay? She's a realtor, and a realtor does really well with Compass real estate office. Can someone explain to me how she gets appointed to the planning board in Jersey City? That's a volunteer position. It's a non-paid position. So before Irene starts menstruating and saying, oh my God, how slanderous. No, Irene, you're now a public official. Okay, you're now in the public eye. You're now on the planning board. Okay, you don't get to hide behind the bullshit of being a private citizen. You're not anymore. Okay, so don't get it twisted. But can someone explain to me how that isn't a conflict of interest? That you're a realtor? What, you don't know contractors? You don't know developers? Now, I don't know. I haven't read the ELEC report. I don't know what Irene Barnaby has donated in recent years to both Steve Fulop and James Solomon. I'm assuming she has. Obviously, we've seen pictures online. Folks, don't take my word for it. Just Google Irene Barnaby, and you'll see the Instagram posts, and you'll see other posts. Folks, again, don't take my word for it. But how is it not a conflict of interest to have this insufferable woman on the planning board, and she's still a realtor? What, is Irene going to stop being a realtor now? On a volunteer position on a planning board? No, I get it. Maybe she can take some time off, right? She got knocked up again. And maybe she can take some time off. She doesn't have to work per se because her husband's wealthy. I get it. Okay. She could turn around and be like, well, I'm not working in real estate right now because, I'm pregnant and I can live off my husband's money. Okay, cool. I'm sorry. Does your brain shut down, Irene, and you stop knowing developers and contractors? Really? Can someone, again, explain it? How is this not a conflict of interest? And again, with all due respect to Mayor Solomon, who thought this was a good idea? Now, I'm not sure if Irene donated to your campaign. I know that she was integral in you buying your first house in Jersey City. That's great. Maybe that's the bond you share. Cool. Good for you. I don't know what she's donated. I know if she donated to Stephen Fulop during those campaigns, I'm fairly certain she donated to the Solomon campaign, which is fine. You can donate to whoever you want to. That's not my issue here. My issue is if you're a realtor, how do you get to sit on the planning board? Can someone explain to me who in the Solomon administration advised the mayor that this is a good look? This is a horrendous optic. Okay? It just is. Can someone please explain to me? I don't know, folks. It's just not a good look. Okay? Now, if she wants to hide behind the technicality of well, I'm not working right now because I'm pregnant and, I'm not going to be selling real estate anymore. No, honey, you still know developers. You still know contractors. You still know people in development and in real estate. Okay? Don't try to bullshit us. You're not going to fool me. You can fool some of the idiots you hang out with, sure, that subscribe to all your woke bullshit. Folks, this is a woman, okay? Check this out. This is a woman who, A, was stumbling around drunk during Mayor Solomon's election, inauguration ceremony at White Eagle Hall, who, again, when she's not slurring her words, it's just reminding you why today's liberal white woman is the most toxic demographic in our political climate. This is the type of person you can't talk to. And I come at it with facts, as I do with every conversation I have, because I'm that smart, folks. I come at you with facts, not feelings. And I don't get emotional and start like choking up like she does and just walks away because she doesn't want to talk to anymore. Because once you snag people like her and you stump her with facts, which she's not used to espousing herself, yeah, I get it. People like her get all flustered and angry, like the typical white liberal woman. I get it. I've dealt with them. Okay. I've dated them. I've slept with them. I get it. Okay. But in this capacity on the planning board, how is this a good look? How is anyone going to try to convince me this is not a conflict of interest? Mayor Solomon, you got to do better than nominating and appointing clowns like Irene Barnaby. Yeah, she's nice to look at. I get it. But my God, she opens her mouth and it reminds you, my God, what a freaking moron she is. And to make matters worse, a liberal white woman with money and living off her husband's riches and wealth, talk about double whammy, even like 2 times more insufferable than the usual. But again, folks, something you should keep an eye out for. And guess what? The next planning board, if you have an issue when it comes to developers or, proposals presented before the planning board, you might want to bring this to Irene's attention and be like, hey, shouldn't you recuse yourself from this? Because last I heard, you have no business being on a planning board. But again, folks, this is the level of buffoonery that we're dealing with here in Jersey City. With Joe Brooks and his virtue signaling, or the buffoonery for people like Irene Barnaby, who, they're all about, wokeness and all that, but, they don't live in the same world you and I live in, folks. With a nice house and a nice 6-figure bank account, whether it's in checkings and savings or both. Yeah, folks, these aren't the people that live in reality. And you're seeing that right now in Jersey City. And those are my final thoughts. Folks, before I call it a night here, a special comment. Once again, I want to thank the White House Press Corps for bestowing credentials to yours truly, the generational talent, the 10-time award-winning journalist, and the leader in trustworthy opinion journalism, for the invitation last weekend to Rockland County in southern New York State to see the President of the United States advocate for a lot of what's going on with recent legislation, helping small businesses, no tax on tips and overtime, helping residents. Now, we may not see that in Hudson County, New Jersey. We all know how dysfunctional New York State is under Governor Kathy Hochul. But he was there with U.S. Representative Michael Lawler out of New York's 17th Congressional District. And you can go on my social media. It was a capacity crowd at Rockland County Community College. It was a packed building to see the President of the United States speaking about the successes right now that he can brag about with economic policies. So once again, thank you to the White House Press Corps for bestowing credentials to me, because again, not everybody gets them, sure. But when you arrive and they check you out and verify who you are, and you get credentials to walk in and sit in the press pit, well, it's a reminder, folks, for people that don't think I'm a journalist, yeah, I actually am one. And guess what? I'm a damn good one. So once again, thank you to the White House Press Corps and certainly Rockland County Community College for their hospitality this past weekend as the president visited New York State, and quite frankly, to talk about a lot of the economic successes during his second term here. And obviously during the upcoming midterm elections, we'll see how Republicans can hopefully keep the House and keep the Senate. Because last thing we need are woke Democrats and progressives shit in the bed in Washington. They claim they want to make our lives more affordable. Where's that coming from? We're seeing it in many congressional districts throughout the country. So once again, shout out to Rockland County Community College for their invitation, and certainly thank you to the White House Press Corps for disseminating press credentials to the generational talent. And that's my special comment. Folks, that's our show for this week here. Happy Memorial Day once again. I want to thank Bruce Alston, the chronicler-in-chief, the publisher of the Hudson County Chronicles, for just an excellent conversation today. As I ask all the time, please comment, like, and share. It takes 5 seconds to do that, folks. It really helps the show grow and shows your support for fearless independent media here in not just Hudson County, but throughout all the state of New Jersey via Jersey First TV. Make sure you like us on Facebook. Of course, follow us on Instagram. And don't forget, folks, a new handle on X. Yeah, it's been a pain to try to retrieve my original account. Unsuccessful thus far. So I created a new one, Uribe Media. Drop a follow there, and you'll see the episodes, obviously, moving forward there from Fernando Uribe Media. And, of course, folks, subscribe to Jersey First TV on YouTube. You can see brand new episodes of Real Talk, which air every Monday. Check your local listings, of course. And, of course, check out Bridging the Gap, which has returned to Jersey First TV. And, of course, whether you get your podcasts on Spotify or SoundCloud, download and favorite Jersey First, and you'll be notified of all the great content we bring you every single week. As, folks, again, we continue to be the leaders in fearless independent media throughout New Jersey, always educating and advocating for the residents here in the great state of New Jersey. That's what we do at Jersey First TV. Again, folks, I can't say what a privilege it is enough to work with Jersey First TV. Once again, folks, I cannot say it enough. If it's unbiased, unfiltered, and unafraid, it's always real talk here on the Jersey First Television Network. I am the generational talent in Garden State Media, and certainly your leader for trustworthy opinion journalism, folks. That's right, the most handsome face that runs the place. That's right, it's me, Fernando Uribe. Have a great rest of your Memorial Day. Let's go Knicks as they go on to the NBA Finals. And folks, it's a special time in New York. When the Knicks are good, everybody's enjoying basketball here as we approach the month of June. I appreciate everybody tuning in here during the month of May. Great traffic so far. But is that a surprise to anybody? Of course not. Again, ladies and gentlemen, please party responsibly. Thanks for stopping by. And as always, stay classy, everyone.